You have seen this diagram, 4 circles. What you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and in the middle, one word, Ikigai. It is on office walls and in career books, and in 1,000 talks about purpose. That diagram was not made in Japan. It was drawn by a Spanish psychologist, and the word in the middle was not Ikigai. It said purpose. In 2014, a blogger changed that one word. Nobody corrected him. 12 years later, it is what most of the world believes a Japanese word means. Seven Japanese words. You have probably quoted at least 4 of them. None of them are fake. All of them are real, old, and worth knowing. But what reached you was not a translation. It was a repackaging, and it went wrong in the same direction every single time. Start with the one you have already seen. Those 4 circles were drawn in 2011 by a Spanish psychologist named Andres Zuzunaga. It was a diagram about purpose, and it had nothing to do with Japan. 3 years later, a blogger named Mark Wynn swapped the center word for Ikigai and published it. That is the entire origin of the most shared piece of Japanese philosophy on earth. The real source is a book from 1966, Ikigai ni Tsuite, by a psychiatrist named Mieko Kamiya. She built the idea out of years of interviews with patients in a leprosy sanatorium, people who had already lost their work, their families, and any prospect of a career. There is no income circle in Kamiya's Ikigai. There is no talent circle either. Ikigai is the reason you get up tomorrow. For most people, most of the time, it is something very small. Wabi-sabi is sold to you as permission. Love your flaws. Stop chasing perfect. That is not close to what the words mean. Wabi-sabi is an aesthetic, and its foundation is Buddhist. Mujo, impermanence. Ku, suffering. Ku, emptiness. Its subject is not your imperfections. Its subject is that everything you can see is in the process of disappearing. And wabi did not begin as a compliment. It comes from a verb meaning to languish, to be wretched, to pine. In classical Japanese poetry, it was the vocabulary of exiles and unrequited lovers. Sabi comes from a verb meaning to wane, to go desolate, the same root as the word for rust. Only after the 14th century did they turn into something beautiful. The compound reached English in 1994 in a thin book by Leonard Cohen. The word now sold as self-acceptance was once how an exiled man described himself. Kaizen arrives with 2 rules already attached to it. Get 1% better every day, or the 1-minute rule. Do the thing for 60 seconds. Neither rule is Japanese. Kaizen entered Japanese industry after the war, carried in by the American occupation. The US War Department had a program called Training Within Industry, Job Instruction, Job Methods, Job Relations. Its training film was titled Improvement in 4 Steps. In Japanese, that title reads Kaizen no Yon Dankai. The word spread from the Japanese title of an American training film. Deming and Lowell Mellon brought the methods over in the early 50s. Toyota built the most famous version, and that is the part you have heard. In 1986, Masaki Imai put the word into the corporate vocabulary with a book of 16 management practices. Not one of them is a personal habit. The center of Kaizen is not the individual, it is the process and the worker's right to stop the line. As for those 2 rules, 1% better every day came from Dave Brailsford at British Cycling in 2003. The 1-minute rule came from Robert Maurer, a clinical psychologist at UCLA, in 2004. Neither man is Japanese. Both are sold to you as Kaizen. 2 Japanese words get collapsed into one here, so separate them before anything else. Fudoshin is a state of the heart, not being shaken by fear or by anger. Mushin is a state of attention, not sticking anywhere, and the letter that made both of them famous argues that you reach the first one through the second. It was written by a Zen monk, Takuan Soho, to a swordsman named Yagyu Munenori. Munenori ran a sword school and taught 2 generations of shoguns. What everyone quotes from that letter is, "Empty your mind." That is not what it says. Mushin is the mind that does not stop, not blankness, non-attachment. Takuan's problem is not that you think, it is that your thinking lands on one thing and stays stuck there. There is a full video on Fudoshin on this channel, and it is the other half of this idea. Shoshin is the beginner's mind. It is sold as encouragement. Stay curious, stay humble. The sentence it comes from is much harder than that. It is the opening line of Shunryu Suzuki's Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, from 1970. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's, there are few. Read that again. He is not praising the beginner, he is warning you about the expert. Expertise is described here as a narrowing, and Suzuki opens the entire book with it, before anything else, because it is the problem the book exists to solve. Kintsugi is where the whole pattern becomes obvious. You know the story. A shogun named Ashikaga Yoshimasa sends a cracked tea bowl to China to be repaired. It comes back held together with ugly metal staples, so he asks Japanese craftsmen for something better, and Kintsugi is born. That story is a legend. The sources that tell it say so themselves. Legend, apocryphal, unverified. And the late 15th century date everybody repeats rests on that same story. Here is what is actually certain. By the 17th century, repairing ceramics with lacquer and gold was a common practice in Japan. Urushi and gold powder were materials Japanese craftsmen had already mastered for centuries. So this is not only a concept the West misread, this is a concept the West wrote an origin story for. Your scars make you beautiful, and here is the ancient shogun who proves it. Except nobody can find the shogun's bowl, which brings us to the one that sounds oldest of all. Bushido, the ancient code of the samurai. Bushido, the soul of Japan, was written by Nitobe Inazo and published in 1899. In New York, in English. In America, for American and European readers, by a man who had been living abroad for years. The samurai class had been abolished about 25 years earlier. The 7 virtues everyone lists: rectitude, courage, benevolence, politeness, sincerity, honor, loyalty. They are Nitobe's compilation. It was not translated into Japanese until 1908. For 9 years, the Japanese could not read their own ancient code. Theodore Roosevelt read it, and so did Baden-Powell, and so did Kennedy. None of that makes it worthless. There is a video on this channel about those 7 pillars, and everything in it still stands. Knowing who wrote a code, for whom and why, does not weaken it. It tells you what it was built to do. 7 words, and they all break in the same direction. Every one of them reaches you converted into an instruction. Do this tomorrow morning. Fill in this diagram, 60 seconds a day. That is not a coincidence, and it is not a translation error. It is a market. The self-help industry can only sell a concept it can turn into a task. So a psychiatrist's book about why people keep living becomes a career worksheet. An aesthetic about disappearance becomes a permission slip. A factory method becomes a morning routine. Most of these words were never instructions. They were a way of looking at something, and a way of looking cannot be completed, so it cannot be sold. There is nothing here for you to do tonight. That is the point. Learning the real version of these words is not a practice you add. It is a false one you put down. Whatever you thought Ikigai was this morning, you now know one true thing about it. That is enough for one video. If this channel is useful to you, subscribe.